One question. You cut the calories, you pushed through the hunger, you did everything the diet told you to do, and your body didn't give a care. Not just didn't respond, the belly got harder, the energy got lower, and the weight came back faster than it left. And somewhere in the middle of all that, you started wondering if it was you. It's not you. Your fat didn't grow, it moved. And today, we're explaining exactly why. Welcome to Body Rewired. This is not it, it's miswired. And we're fixing that together. Let's start with something most people never explain. Estrogen had a second job. Everyone knows the first job, reproduction, cycles, fertility. That's the one that gets all the attention. But estrogen was also your body's natural anti-inflammatory manager. Here's how that worked. Your immune system produces a class of signaling proteins called cytokines. Cytokines are not hormones. They are your immune system's communication network. When you get an infection, cytokines fire. When you have a wound, cytokines coordinate the healing. In the right amount, they keep you alive. But there are two types: pro-inflammatory cytokines, TNF-alpha, standing for tumor necrosis factor alpha, and IL-6, standing for interleukin 6. IL-1 beta, standing for interleukin 1 beta. These are the alarm signals. They activate the immune response. They create inflammation. And anti-inflammatory cytokines can calm everything back down once that threat is handled. Estrogen was constantly managing this balance every day, suppressing the pro-inflammatory signals when there are no real threat, keeping the alarm from going off for no reason. When estrogen drops, that management ends. TNF-alpha and IL-6 stop being told to stand down. They rise, not enough to feel really sick, just enough to change the entire operating environment of your body. We call that the glitch, chronic low-grade inflammation, running underneath everything, quietly, constantly. And the glitch rewrites the rules, starting with where your body stores fat. This is the part I really want you to understand because it explains something that drives women absolutely mad. You didn't gain weight everywhere. You gained it in one specific place, and somewhere else quietly emptied. The glutes, the hips, the thighs. This is not random. This is a double mechanism, a pull from below and a push to the center at the same time. Let me decode that. Estrogen's receptors, the docking station that receive estrogen signal, are highly concentrated in your gluteal and femoral fat, your hips, your thighs, your glutes. Estrogen was actively directing fat storage to those areas through those receptors every day, saying, store it here, store it soft, store it safe. When estrogen drops, those receptors lose their signal. The direction disappears. Fat stops being guided south. That's the pull from below. Now the push to the center. The deep abdominal area around your organs has a very different receptor profile, dense with cortisol receptors, highly responsive to pro-inflammatory cytokines. When cortisol rises, and it does because the glitch activates your stress response, it actively promotes fat storage in the deep abdominal depot. And TNF-alpha and IL-6 do the same. They signal the body to preferentially store fat centrally around the organs. So estrogen stops pulling fat to your glutes, and cortisol and cytokines start pushing it to your belly, both happening simultaneously. This is the relocation. Now, one thing I need to make clear: belly fat and visceral fat are not the same thing. One type stores energy quietly under your skin. One type runs a factory wrapped around your organs, producing its own inflammatory signals every single day. And that factory fat, visceral fat, produces its own TNF-alpha and IL-6, the same cytokines that rose when estrogen dropped. So the fat that relocated to your belly because cytokines rose is now producing more cytokines. The fire is making more fire. The glitch feeds the relocation. The relocation feeds the glitch. The loop tightens every day, quietly. Now, let's go one layer deeper because this explains why visceral fat is so hard to shift. We call this the lock. When a fat cell gets overfilled, stretched beyond its capacity, the membrane is under so much tension, it physically cannot accept more. So when insulin arrives and says, time to store energy, the fat cell says, no. This is insulin resistance, a cell so full it cannot open its door. And when insulin is being refused everywhere, it rises, trying to compensate. And high insulin locks the fat cell shut from the outside too. You cannot burn what's locked. But here's where it gets serious. Inside a locked, overfilled fat cell, the mechanism that breaks fat down for energy stops working properly. Fatty acids start leaking into the surrounding tissue, into the bloodstream, to your liver, your heart, your muscles, where they trigger inflammation and begin activating cell death pathways. This is the direct line between visceral fat and cardiovascular disease, between visceral fat and accelerated aging. The fat isn't just sitting there, it's leaking. And what it's leaking is damaging your organs quietly every day. So now you know why menopause moves belly fat to your belly. The mechanism, the biology, the loop that tightens every time you try to fight it with the wrong playbook. The next question is obvious. What do you actually do about it? And that is its own episode because the answer is not the same diet you did in your 20s, your 30s. It is not the bodybuilder cutting protocol. It is not eat less, move more. Those playbooks were written for a completely different body running a completely different program. The belly that grew near menopause needs a different conversation. And we are having it next. I built this channel because I wish someone had explained this to me 10 years earlier. I lost precious years, my busiest career years, trying to understand why I was swimming against the current, doing everything right, getting everything wrong, being told it was stress, your age, your mental. When everything fell on my lap with different diagnoses, and no, I'm not talking about menopause, it was more complicated than that. I started to study like crazy. Don't go through the same mistake I did. And this is the whole reason this channel exists. Here's what today actually gave you. 1. Estrogen wasn't just reproductive. It was your anti-inflammatory manager. When it dropped, cytokines rose, and they rewrote the rules. 2. Your fat relocated. Estrogen stopped pulling it fast. Cortisol and cytokines started pushing it centrally. The relocation. 3. Visceral fat is not passive. It runs a factory. It feeds the loop, and through the lock, it leaks fatty acids that damage your organs. If you haven't seen episode 1 and episode 2 yet, these two will change how you read everything we covered today. Episode 1, the orchestra, why your hormones are playing out of tune, and why weight loss gets harder near menopause. Episode 2, the collapse. What estrogen was actually protecting, the reason your skin changed, and what to do about it. And if you are doing everything right and nothing is moving, stay with this channel because we are just getting started. One wire fixed, more to rewire. Body rewired, this is not it. It's miswired. And we're fixing that together. See you next week.